In the second video, we're going to look at part 2 on your worksheet and do some similar shapes to those shapes. Let's begin by looking at problem A. If we look at problem A, what we have first is an L-shaped figure. We're going to look at that L-shaped figure and decide what we can break that into that would be figures that would be on our formula sheet. Let's go ahead and label some of these sides. Let's make this side 10 centimeters. Let's make this side 15 centimeters. And over here, let's go with 2.5. Now, if you noticed, I put a hash mark on this side. I'm also going to put a hash mark up here. When you see similar hash marks, that means those sides are the same size. So I'm going to go ahead and in this picture, put 2.5 up here. Now, I have no L-shaped figures on my formula sheet, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this into two rectangles because I know the formula for a rectangle. First, I'm going to start with this rectangle right here. And secondly, I'm going to deal with this rectangle down here. Okay, we know that the formula for an area of a rectangle, since we're looking for the inside, is length times width. Looking at my red rectangle, I've got two numbers. I've got a width and I've got a length. So what I'm going to do is multiply those together, 10 times 2.5. And I get 25 centimeters. Now going with my blue rectangle, it's the same formula, length times width. My two numbers for this blue rectangle are going to be different than those of the red rectangle. My length here is 15 and my width is 2.5. Multiplying those together gives me equals 37.5. Since this is a composite figure, I'm going to take these two numbers here, add them together to get my total area. The total area of the entire shape is the 25, which was this rectangle, plus the 37.5, which was that rectangle. Adding those together, I get 52.5 centimeters squared as my final answer for the total area of this composite shape. Next, we're going to look at figure B. Figure B looks like a rectangle, except it has a chunk taken out of it. I'm going to put hash marks here and hash marks here. That means those two sides are equal. Let's go ahead and make this 7 centimeters. So if that's 7, that means this is also 7. And I'm going to make the bottom 5 centimeters. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a little arrow here. This little arrow stands for how deep this triangle is, or the height of that triangle. And let's go ahead and make that 4 centimeters. Now, again, there's no shape like this one on my formula sheet, so I'm going to have to see what I can break this up into. What I like to do is when I see a shape that has a chunk taken out, is I like to figure out, if I were putting carpeting in this room, I would probably buy too much carpet. What I would do is I would buy a piece of carpet that would be that big, and then I would cut out that little triangle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out the area of this large rectangle here, because it looks like it would be easy. I know the length and I know the width. So the area of that rectangle would be the 7 times the 5. That would be 35 centimeters squared. Now if I went out and bought that big of a piece of carpet, it would be too much and I don't want to waste. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to figure out how much I have to cut out, and then I can go to the store and buy a little bit less carpet because I know I'm cutting out a piece. So that right there is a triangle. So the formula is 1/2 times base times height. I always make my 1/2 a 0.5. The base of the triangle does not have a number. But if I look at my picture, this is a rectangle. And if this piece is 5, that means that piece is also 5. So now I have found my base. My base is 5. What clues do I have to my height of my triangle? Well, if you look, how tall is that triangle? This arrow right here tells me that it's 4. So my triangle is now 0.5 times 5 times 4. The triangle turns out to be 10 centimeters squared. Now, if you remember at the very beginning of the problem, I said I'm going to buy a piece that's 35, but that would be too much, and I need to cut out the little triangle piece. So now, if I'm figuring out how much I actually need when I go to the store, I need 35 centimeters squared, but I'm going to cut out a piece that's 10 centimeters squared. So my actual area of the whole shape is 25 centimeters squared. This is what you would do whenever you have something that looks like it has a notch taken out, like this piece. Instead of adding, you're going to do a bigger rectangle and then subtract. Problem C will be continued in the next video.